Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today is Abhijit Iyer-Mitra Day, Wednesday evenings at 9 p.m. And here is your favorite Jodi of Pattai and Mottai. Let's welcome Abhijit Iyer-Mitra in his latest avatar. I don't know what name he has chosen for himself today. But first, please like this video and we will have all your questions answered in no time at all. Let's welcome Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. Namaskar. How are you?
Well, how you are doing?
Oh, we are doing very well. I hope you are also in the same well.
Yes, sir. Very first class, sir. Thank you very much.
So what is happening, sir? Why are all these various heads of state visiting Israel? Why are they saying different from each other? What is it? Are they wasting Netanyahu's time?
They're trying to get Israel to stop what it is planning on doing. They're trying to get clarity on what Israel plans, what the two steps after this are, etc., etc.
But listen, what Israel wants to do, I don't think even Israel knows, because these things have been planned by these. If you're having 500 kilometers worth of tunnels, I mean, they have to figure out the way as they go in, only after they go in, isn't it? What can Israel take today that will help them feel better?
Look, I mean, the need for revenge. Lots of people start wars out of anger. Classic case was George Bush going after Afghanistan and then, going after Iraq to bring freedom and democracy because they wanted to address the root cause, which they thought was, the lack of freedom and democracy in the Arab world. Right. So, this kind of anger based thing, we've seen it very often. Remember the invasion of Chechnya, the first war invasion of Chechnya happened when bomb blasts started going off in Moscow. So this is natural. It'll happen. There's nothing you can do about it. So what they're trying to do is figure out if Israel is acting on anger or if they actually have a plan, or is because anger is not a plan. So they're trying to get clarity, and I think they feel that Israel doesn't have a plan, that it's acting out of anger, and so they're trying to go there and talk it down somewhat, or at least give them a reality check of sorts.
What do you think Israel is going to do, personally?
After they finish the bombing campaign, they're going to go in. They're going to go tunnel by tunnel, drop, send in robots with lots of thermobaric explosives, and clean out those tunnels. That's what they're going to do.
So, do they have the profiles of the hostages so that they can separate them from the rest and
Yeah,
then?
I think they've given up on separating the hostages. It's something called the what protocol? I've forgotten. It's some biblical name. The Goliath protocol? No, something.
Hmm.
Basically, if they feel that a hostage is going to be mistreated, they would rather kill the hostage themselves.
Hmm. Hmm. All right. Thank you so much for that. Let's move on to our questions. We have a lot of questions today for you, Abhijit. Ishan Sharma wants to know, Abhijit, what do you see the future of Democrats in 2024? Are more far left Democrats going to be elected, or because of Israeli conflict, some centrists will be elected? Any updates on the House Speaker?
I have no idea what they're going to do. But look, what I do know is MAGA aren't going to let any opponents of Trump get elected. Okay. So are you getting music? I'm getting music.
No?
Okay. Hang on.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Sorry. So there are, I don't know, boss. Look, institutional capture is so great. We all thought the midterms were going to go against the Dems, and in spite of deep debt and financial crisis and whatnot, it did not. They managed just fine. So I think the next election will be very interesting. are more of them that are going to get elected. They're going to run, and there's pretty much nothing we can do about it.
Aditya wants to know Bhagwan, Indra, and Varuna have lot of references in Persian, Zoroastrian mythology. Buddha also has occasional mentions. Is the core of Hindu mythology inspired from ancient Persia or the other way?
They both have. I've never heard of Buddha in Persian mythology, uh, ever, Aditya. But look, it's a split of the same people. We all live together in the Indus, what we call the Sapta Sindhu and what they call the Hapta Hindu. And we started worshipping the Devas, they started worshipping the Asuras. Indra would never be worshipped in the Persian thing. He would be evil because he is the Deva. Varuna is an Asura. So he would be worshipped. Varuna is what becomes Ahura Mazda, apparently. That's what they say. I don't know how it works, but apparently it does. So basically, the gods split. There in the Vedas, there's the Asuras are also good. It is in mythology, it is in post-Vedic mythology that the Asuras become evil. And for them, the Devas become evil. Literally, the word for a demon in Persian is Dev. Evil spirits, Dev. Ahura, gods. For us, Asuras are evil spirits and Devas are gods. That's what happens. It's the first big split of the Hindu religion. Next.
Next one, please. Om Patel wants to know how is Russia comfortable with a nuclear Iran on their southern flank? Will Europe be able to solve its Islam problem or is it doomed?
Europe is doomed. There's no way they're coming back from this. They are getting more and more and more into virtue signaling and things. The entire institutions become like that. And Europeans are very easily brainwashed into things. They never push back. When fascism is all the craze, they all turn fascist. When democracy becomes all the craze, they all turn democracy. When nationalism is all the craze, they all turn nationalist. When nationalism becomes a bad word, they all turn anti this thing. Their ability to brainwash their own people is unparalleled. You don't see any pushback to it, like, for example, you would in America. In America, you'll always have a strong counterpoint of view, which will be very articulate and it will push back. In Europe, you will never really get that. Maybe Britain is an exception, but even in Britain, you look at GB News. We all expected GB News to be an alternate source. It really isn't. It's recycling some of the same old hacks. It's just turning more and more establishment. Russia and nuclear Iran. Well, look, Russia is not comfortable with the nuclear Iran, but the more uncomfortable it goes, it feels with the West, and the more dependent it gets on Iran. And it's very dependent on Iran for these drones that they're using, the killer drones that they're using in Ukraine, because it's at a fantastic cost, at a fantastic price. They feel that, a nuclear Iran isn't such a bad thing. We've got nuclear NATO on the west. We've got nuclear China in the east. We've got nuclear Pakistan and Afghanistan in the south. Where's the problem having one more nuclear power? It wasn't their position some years back, but I suspect now with Ukraine that will be their position. It's still not officially stated position, but it is what it is. And best of luck if the Iranians go nuclear today. Best of luck trying to get UN sanctions on them because the Russians will veto all of that. Next.
Question for you regarding Ukraine. Where did their nukes go once they gave them up?
The Russia.
Okay.
All former Soviet nukes were handed over to Russia.
Okay. Next one, please. Kanda Batata wants to know, is it true that Israel created Hamas and supported ISIS?
Yes, both. What happened was they desperately wanted to break Fatah, the Palestine Liberation Organization. And so they found that, because Fatah used to be, and remember, this was a time in the 70s and the 80s when the big conflict in the Arab world was between pan-Arabism, which was secular Republican Arab states, versus conservative monarchies. And the PLO was a sort of secularist uh, uh, um, uh, Republican organization, and they wanted to create a religious opposition to it so as to weaken it so that they'd constantly be at each other's throats. Much the same way that Indira Gandhi created Bhindranwale to oppose the Akali Dal because she didn't like the Akali Dal's monopoly on Punjab. And so she tried to create Bhindranwale to take down the Akalis, and ultimately he took her down and he took India down to a certain extent. It was exactly that. They never estimated Hamas would become such a big threat, but it did. And miscalculations do happen. We've done it. I mean, we created the LTT, we created Bhindranwale. It was the exact same idea. Osama bin Laden was created by the Americans. Why? Because to fight the USSR. Little did they think that he'd kill more Americans than the USSR. But it did happen. And they supported ISIS. Yes and no. Not monetarily and physically. But if ISIS fighters came to the border and asked for medical help, it was given without question. They told us this. They never hid it. Every time we'd go to Israel, they say, yeah, we've got about 70, 80 fighters here. They've all come for medical help. And their rationale was, look, if we come, if this guy is asking for our help and we give it to him, is there a possibility tomorrow that he will not kill an Israeli or a Jew when he sees one? Possibly. Is there a possibility we can turn him into an intelligence asset? Yes, possibly. Most likely not. But why? What's the harm in trying? Because they're not killing us at the moment. So they did help ISIS if they asked for food, not weapons, importantly. Food and medical help, yes, they did. And I've personally seen that because I went, if you go through my Twitter timeline, you will see me in a blue kurta sitting on the Golan lookout exactly at a time in overlooking Quneitra, when Quneitra was divided into three parts. Quneitra town itself was held by the government. The left side was held by Ahrar al-Sham, and the right side was held by ISIS.
Is it still under control by under Israel now? Golan Heights? Now?
Golan Heights. Yeah, very much so.
So it's still under Israeli control now.
Huh.
Okay, all right. Because I know Sinai was given up by them to Egypt when they signed that peace accord.
Sinai was given up long back, except Gaza.
Yeah.
Gaza, the Egyptians
except
didn't want
Gaza.
it back
Right.
because they knew it was very problematic.
I thought Egyptians didn't want it more than.
Yeah, that's what I said. The Egyptians didn't want it because it was too problematic.
Yeah. Ritu Patil wants to know, how do you think Israel should have responded? Because currently they are losing the information front, and I don't think they'll be able to root out Hamas by entering Gaza. How do they not realize? I think we talked about this.
They might be able to. Gaza isn't that big. Gaza is only 1/4 the size of Delhi. It's completely flat land. It has no geographic terrain. It is just totally flat. You literally take inner ring road and outer ring road in Delhi from Noida to Gurgaon, extend it about, say, 50 kilometers, and that is Gaza. People don't realize this. It is tiny. You look at a map of Delhi, 1/4 of Delhi is Gaza. That's it. Okay. Israel has a very, very good soldier to population ratio in Gaza. Certainly within the norm of this thing of within the God, sorry, I'm sitting in a friend's house and there's lots of insects and things because I've unfortunately left the window open. Sorry, what was I saying? So they will manage just fine. You don't worry about that. And they are losing the information war, which is why India is very important to them. I want all of you to go out and tweet in support of Israel and magnify pro-Israeli tweets, because you don't realize this. The Israelis have been saying this to us. We are the ones. Indian Twitter is the one that is boosting up Israel's engagement on Twitter and social media. Normally, it would be completely flooded with Palestinian, pro-Palestinian crap. It's India that's equalized the balance on the Twitter sphere and the Facebook sphere and the Insta sphere and all of that. Okay.
I have one personal request for you,
Now,
Abhijit.
remember,
Go ahead. Finish it. Yeah.
1 second. What happens is that after all of this, after the aerial bombing campaign is over, you will have the ground invasion. Okay. After the ground invasion, in fact, even during the ground invasion, you will see a significant downturn in news coming out of there. The less news that comes out of there, especially during the counterinsurgency phase, which is once the occupation is complete, the sort of peacekeeping phase, then you will see that people will just forget about it. 1 year back, did you think people would forget about Ukraine? No, but they have forgotten about Ukraine. Nobody's spoken about Ukraine in the last 2 weeks. And that's what will happen. And Israel knows that will happen.
Before we go to this question, Abhijit, after we finish this program, just stay for 1 minute. I want to talk to you about something else and then you can log off.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Himank wants to know, ask Abhijit, why did America stop the production of C-17 when it was such a hot-selling product?
No orders. No orders. India should have bought that production line. I always said India should have bought that C-17 production line. India should have bought the M777 production line, the ultralight howitzer production line. We did not. It was on sale to us. You know, the M777 production line was on sale to us for something like $20-25 million. That is nothing. And you would have had a howitzer which you could have used on every single platform you wanted. You didn't take it. The C-17 would have required work, but sure, we could have bought it. I mean, we could have done a lot with those C-17s. We could have had, 60, 70, 80 of them. An airlift capacity is an absolute crucial capacity, especially an airlift capacity like the C-17. We did not. I don't know why, but we just did not.
Next one, please. Thank you, Unemployed, for becoming a YouTube member. Hopefully, you'll get employed soon. Maliban Bhattacharya wants to know, only the first question on this, okay? Can you throw some light on the Samson option and did Israel really prepare to enforce it in 73, Yom Kippur?
They didn't really, but basically Samson option, for those who don't know about it, is if Israel is going to collapse, they're going to nuke the entire Middle East. Okay, if we go down, you all go down. Basically, that's it. And everybody in the neighborhood knows about it. This whole thing about in Yom Kippur was they never lost faith during. The only person who lost faith in 1973 was Moshe Dayan. And both Henry Kissinger and Golda Meir were deeply worried about him. They wanted to throw him into a lunatic asylum. They didn't do it because that would have completely ruined the morale of the troops. He wanted to go on radio and announce that the temple of Jerusalem has fallen for the second time, run, flee, get out of Israel and shit like that. He literally wanted to do crap like that.
And they also discovered Shimon Peres from the Egypt campaign. No. Unemployed wants to know, is government owning all?
Shimon Peres was never a general.
He was not a general, but he was the one who led that counterattack. No. They went behind. No. Yeah, they crossed Suez.
You're confusing Shimon Peres with Ariel Sharon.
Oh, you're right. Ariel Sharon. I'm sorry. Ariel Sharon. Yeah. Ariel Sharon. You're right. But I know one of those two guys who went on to become a prime minister earned his stripes in 73 war.
But Shimon Peres was always a bureaucrat. He was never a general.
Unemployed wants to know, is government owning all land in India and renting, leasing it out to people for agriculture, housing or business purpose a good idea?
It's a very good idea. I've been advocating it for a very long time. If you're a socialist country, you might as well do socialism and do what Singapore does, which is give it out on 49-year leases and 99-year leases. That's what you should be doing. But you don't.
But didn't the British do exactly that?
No.
Yes. East India Company used to have this thing called Rayatwari system where they essentially owned...
completely different. That was for agricultural land and it was very, very different. We're talking about modern style land where land is valued on its yield and is given out based on what you want. It's not based on the taxes that you give back to the company. It's based on production and things like that and social good, etc.
For that, you need a clean bureaucracy, and you can't put what works in a small island country like city-state like Singapore to India. Scale.
Now, the question is, it all comes back to bureaucratic reforms in this country. As long as you have a corrupt bureaucracy and a prime minister who thinks of bureaucrats as his wife, there's nothing you can really do.
That's a nice analogy. Next one.
No, really. Modi loves bureaucrats more than most committed men love their wives. He should be the patron saint of bureaucracy in India.
Real Cricket wants to know, why do teenagers have white hairs excluding genetics?
What? I have no idea what that means.
There has been one explanation given in
No,
Ayurveda.
what is
There are
what is?
three
I've
types
never
of.
seen teenagers with white hair.
No. So you have Pitta, Vata, Kapha. You with me on that?
No.
Pitta, Vata, Kapha. You
What is
don't know
that?
these three things? These are the three ailments your body will have. They have
Okay.
to be in balance. Once the one gets imbalanced, right, then that's where the problem happens according to Ayurveda. And if you have more pitta is, I don't know what equivalent. There is no equivalent in English. If you have a little bit more pitta, then you will tend to get white hair when you are young. And the other advanced pitta is paithyam. That you know what it means.
Yes. Madness. Yep.
Next one, please.
Next.
Ishan Khosla wants to know, why some people are born gay. Is it a byproduct of ongoing evolution to control overpopulation or something more than that?
So it's epigenetic. It can just happen. You can get rid of all the gay people on Earth today, gas them all off, and 2-3 generations down the line, somebody else will be born gay. Okay, that is what epigenetic means. Now, is it a way? I don't know if it's a way of controlling overpopulation, because what happens is, this is that famous experiment. Rats were put in confinement, and first they overbred, and then the rats turned to homosexuality. What are those experiments called? Are they the San Francisco experiments or something like that? A very famous set of experiments. If the audience can answer, I forgot what that thing is. It was basically a
Mm-mm.
controlled set of experiments with rats. Um,
Wow.
yeah, and they turned extremely violent first. First they overpopulated, then they turned violent, then they turned to cannibalism. Uh, and they turned to hedonism and homosexuality, and they essentially extincted themselves, or close to, or the cycle begins again. I forget what it is, but if you could Google those experiments, rat utopia experiments, that's it. uh, Rat utopia experiments, um, and that's if you Google that, you'll see how it happens. We still don't know, um, because it is epigenetic, it's not genetic. So let's see. Next.
Vamsi wants to know, is it true about that India may be under FATF scrutiny because government is going after NGOs and India has resumed visa services partly for Canadian citizens? Comment.
No, FATF is entirely for funding terror. India going after people it suspects for terror can't put you on FATF. In fact, India is planning on complaining about Canada to the FATF. Quite the contrary. And I don't know what this renewal of Canadian citizen visas is all about. It's the MEA being the MEA. I can tell you lots of people in certain other services are very pissed off with the MEA for what has just happened. But the MEA is the MEA. They corrupt crooks and they do what they want.
Mr. Lee wants to know, Professors Maxime Berg and Pat Hudson show with new data how colonialism and slavery drove the Industrial Revolution. The 2023 book is called Slavery, Capitalism, and the Industrial Revolution. Have you read it?
Lovely, Mr. Lee. And that is complete bullshit. And I'll tell you why. It was industrialization that brought about the end of slavery. Okay. And the reason is, once you start industrialization, what is the main thing about industrialization? It brings about uniformity like nobody's business. Now, quality is a function of labor. You can't have a demoralized workforce like a slave workforce working in your fields. And this is why it was the industrial north that attacked the agrarian south to free slaves. So you will see, in fact, it is the colonization of Africa. Most of the colonization of Africa happened after the Industrial Revolution began. A lot of it, in fact, happened to end slavery because it became a moral crusade with a lot of these countries because it was a big vote catching issue. Of course, it was basically industry wanted. It was an industry driven issue. Like wokeism is driven by Facebook, Google, and all these people for a certain uh, uh, gain. You're seeing it happen in your own lifetime where, gender mutilation is mainstreamed by social media companies, including YouTube, where we're going live right now. So what happened there was industry needed a trained workforce. They had no use for slaves. So what did they do? They made this a big campaign, a moral crusade. It is unchristian to have slaves. It was perfectly Christian to have slaves for 2000 years. Suddenly it becomes unchristian to have slaves. And we need to free up Africa from slavery, which means their need for getting more minerals out of Africa was couched as anti slavery, and they did, in fact, greatly end slavery wherever they went. In many of the cases, their wars in Africa were declared very specifically with the intent of ending slavery. Till then, African colonization had all been at the periphery. It was mostly the African kingdoms themselves that were doing 90% of the slavery was done by African kingdoms themselves. You go to Benin and check out the kingdom of Benin, not the country of Benin today, but the kingdom of Benin, which used to slaughter thousands of slaves in human sacrifices every year. Dahomey, you look up the rituals of Dahomey. These were the great slave trading kingdoms. Mozambique, all of these had amazing slave trading kingdoms that didn't care about their own people, would capture them and sell them off to the Portuguese, the Brits, the French, and everything. So it's quite the opposite. And I don't know what these people are trying to do, but I'm definitely going to read this book. 1 second, I'm just going to quickly take a photo of this so that I can ye karofai. But it is actually the exact opposite of it.
Next one, please. Thank you, Shruti Jain. Why does Israel not have a written constitution? I can understand it for a country like UK since it has a monarchy, but why Israel?
No. Shruti, UK being a monarchy has nothing to do with it. Okay, it basically has to do with the fact that they never felt the need for a constitution. Being a monarchy has nothing to do with a written or unwritten constitution. In Israel, their thing was very, very clear. They would rule by statutes because the constitution was designed in a way to ever prevent one party from getting a majority. They were very clear from day one that no one party would get a majority. And so they did not want to be bogged down in a system that would not give them legislative flexibility. So it was a very conscious decision, much like Italy. Italy has a constitution, but Italy wrote its elections in a way that no party would ever be able to have a single party majority. Israel very carefully chose a very similar system where no party, no matter what, would. It's almost impossible for a single party. It has never happened in Israeli history that a single party gets an absolute majority. They've always ruled in coalitions, and they wanted the flexibility to amend through statute. The British model existed, and so they said, you know what, we'll combine the British model with, say, the Italian electoral model with the British constitution model. Next.
Atre Shigawal wants to know, with Bhutan getting cozier with China, how do you see the relationship with India changing?
Well, I've been predicting this for a long time. You should have seen this coming. When, we pointed out that about 10% of the country had been taken over by the Chinese, the Bhutanese embassy in Delhi were trying very hard to prevent that news from getting out. They contradicted it, and then finally we put out satellite imagery to show it had happened. And they couldn't do diddly squat. They've been getting their journalists to attack Modi and India for a very long time now. I've always been saying you need to get rid of this king. This king needs to be assassinated somehow and gotten rid of. They won't do it. Bhutan is going to become a Chinese satellite state. And there's nothing you can do about it because this government is sleeping.
Next question, please. We are only, if you send us multi-part questions, 1, 2, 3, we are only going to take one question. It's not fair for everybody. That's why we are just taking one question per blurb. So I hope you understand. Thank you, Yatish Patak. Hi, Abhijit. Can you please share your thoughts on Maarut? It is still helpful in any case now for DRDO or any other aviation
We've already
company.
answered this question. No, we answered this question, I think, in the overall questions that got asked that come up in the second channel. Sachin, I think, asked me this question. It was a
Yeah.
flow on from the previous thing. Yeah, let's go on to the next question.
Narayan wants to know, what do you think of the press conference of the Israeli hostage who praised heaps on Hamas?
Stockholm syndrome. That's a classic case of Stockholm syndrome. You're not looking at the of the circumstances in which you were kidnapped. You're just looking at the kidnapping, and you're grateful for anything you get because you're such a complete state of terror.
Next one, please. Chris G, thank you so much. Updates on Chandrababu's case. Looks like Harish Salve's arguments aren't effective on behalf of CBN.
This is for you, not for me.
PGurus doesn't touch CBN's topic in any programs at all, Sriji. PJP plus TDP and Janasena possible in 24. Krish, I have not been keeping up with Andhra politics. Sorry about that. Actually, I know the guy who does, and he's traveling. And I'm hoping to get a couple of sessions. So stay tuned. We will get this information. It's just a matter of this product. The specialist is traveling, but I will have that in short order. Next one. Levi Ackerman, thank you so much. Shubho Vijaya 𝗤𝙗𝙤 𝗢𝙂. What does it mean, boss?
Pujai Kamon Katale. So that is Shubho Vijaya, you know, Shubho Vijayadashmi. And what did you do for puja? Well, basically, I've come to my Kashmiri sister's house, and I'm spending all my time getting bullied by her niece and getting bullied by my niece and bullying my nephew and eating fantastic Kashmiri food. If you notice, yesterday I tweeted out this incredible Shandesh. It's a take on a tres leches cake, which is this Mexican cake, but it's baked in an earthenware pot, and it's topped by kanchagolla, which is basically, you know, raw Shandesh, and soaked in rose water and things like that, with lots of pistachios and rose water. It was just awesome. And if you want, I can call my nephew again and bully him on screen for you. Next.
Next one, please. Akash Mihir wants to know, how is life in Moscow currently?
It's okay. It's okay. It's not great. It's okay. It's okay. All my friends are managing. Most of them have gotten out, in fact, because they don't want to. They just feel suffocated because they can't travel. And 1 second, अरे प्रतिभा, इधर पॉडकास्ट में स्पेशल रिक्वेस्ट आया है कि पिच्चू को ले आओ करके. They remember Pichu from a previous podcast. So can you bring him, please? हाँ, और तुम भी आ जाओ, सबको हेलो बोलो. Yes. So you're going to see my family. Or I can actually go out and show all of you right now if you want. Would you like to do
this was the Shandesh you talked about.
Yes. And here, you'll go see me bully my nephew here. So here's the rest of our people. See, this is Munna. Say hello. And this is my sister, Pratibha. And we call her Bhagyavan, of course.
I am Bhagyavan.
And that's Dr. Satish Kaul, my brother-in-law. But most importantly, Pichu andar hai. Oh, he ran off. My nephew ran off. I wanted to bully him and pinch his nose on camera, but I can't. So sorry. I actually went to his school today and embarrassed him. I pulled his nose and I told all his classmates that his name was Piggy Wiggy, and that's what we called him at home. And everybody in his class should call him Piggy Wiggy. So it's great fun.
Why being so cruel on a small kid?
अरे उसको बहुत मजा आता है जब मैं आता हूँ. All his friends know me anyway. I chill out with his friends very often.
All right. Next question, please. Abhinav, thank you so much. Is flooding the tunnels a viable option? Can Hamas get hold of dirty bombs from somewhere?
Flooding the tunnels would probably be the best option. Keeping it flooded, because there'll be air pockets here and there. And thanks, Abhinav. I never actually thought of that. That is ingenious. I won't be surprised if that's what they do, because they certainly have the desalination capacity to be able to do that. Very smart. If you don't mind, I'm going to steal that, Abhinav. Thank you.
Next one, please. Thank you, NOOBIST1. Next one, Nubist. I see. Abhay Agarwal wants to know, in this regard, even India is similar to Europe. We get brainwashed by whatever is the flavor in the West, especially USA. Do you also think so?
In which regard, Abhay? But yes, we do get brainwashed a lot.
Oh, you talked about Europe.
Most of our audience most of our people are not English speaking and not influenced by American trends. We bucked wokeism almost completely. It hasn't really affected us, maybe in some small patches here and there. But we haven't been affected by the woke virus. So, our backwardness actually insulates us from a lot of this crap. Next
one, please. Dr. MPC, thank you so much. Can IDF use wired rovers for clearing tunnels?
Yes, I guess they'll try to do some of that. Unless, of course, they decide to flood the tunnels like Abhishek just said, which would be a much lower cost thing. I mean, why do you want to, use wired rovers to clear tunnels when you can just flood it and drown all the rats inside?
Abhijit, there's one concern there. I heard parts of Gaza is under the ground level. What do you call that thing? Underground.
Yeah, there's a huge underground city, and that is what the tunnels are. That is tunnels.
Oh, no. It's below the sea level. Sorry. Parts of Gaza are below the sea level. And if you flood it, then you basically could flood portions of Gaza also.
Yeah, but see, if you flood it with fresh water, it won't make a difference. Salt water would make a difference, but no, I don't think Gaza is under sea level. No. That
Okay.
I don't think is physically possible. No. The Dead Sea is significantly under sea level, but not Gaza.
Alekhim Soul wants to know, how do you see the left/Muslim circus play out post 2024? Will they continue chaos in the country, or will they take a break till 2029?
I think it'll actually get worse after 2024 because it's the only thing keeping them going at that point. Resource competition makes you desperate. So I think it'll get a lot worse.
Next one, please.
The way to be peaceful is industrialization. Keep industrializing.
Dr. MPC, thank you again. And any news on making our new MB982 Excalibur?
No, zero.
Next one. Partha wants to know, where is India on DEW capabilities? Can we see local manufacturing and use of something like the iron beam? What is DEW?
I don't know. There are hundreds of different things about DEW I know. Let me get what he refers to.
Directed energy weapon. Oh, okay.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah, that's what it is. Directed energy weapon. Yeah.
Kuch nahi. Zero. Zilch. Nada.
Thank you, Piyush Kumar. Should Israel think of exodus to US? Sometimes leaving a home in bad neighborhood is the only solution. Like Hindus left Uganda and kept progressing.
Why? I mean, why would you want to leave? I mean, you're perfectly capable of defending that part of land. Should Hindus leave India because 26/11 happened? No, na? One attack doesn't change you, boss.
Thank you, Alok Singh. I heard that Gaza tunnels have ventilation system running through generator. Is it true? Then how come they are still working?
Yeah, so this is the amazing thing. I don't know if you saw the IDF actually trolled UN,
Showed, yeah.
what they called UNRWA, UN Refugee Welfare, whatever. One second, let me just check this. I'm going to send the thing to you. They were complaining about no water and no electricity and all that shit. And they trolled the UN agency, say showing them the fuel dumps in Gaza. Yeah, I'm sending this to you. Should I send it on the PGurus thing or should I send it on Sree Iyer?
Could you send it on PGurus thing, please, so that we can pick it up, and or you can WhatsApp. That's also better.
No, I'll just send
Either
it here
way,
because
yeah.
so I've sent it on the
It
Twitter DM PGurus, this tweet.
okay. Yeah.
So if Sachin could project it, you'll see what they're doing. Uh, they literally, you know, told. So UNRWA basically said, if we do not get fuel urgently, we will be forced to halt our operations in the Gaza Strip. UN agency says its Gaza operation will end tomorrow. And this, after they deleted their tweets showing that Hamas had stolen their fuel, and this is all the fuel dumps in Gaza. They have huge quantities of fuel in Gaza. What do you think they're using it for? They're not giving it to the hospitals. They're not giving it to anyone. They're keeping it for themselves.
See, this is a good thing this time. All their narratives are getting busted like a bubble, busting balloons, pop, 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 pop,
And
pop
what the
everywhere.
important thing is? We are able to do it looking at primary sources busting it, because before this, the media used to control the narrative. I'm not
Yes.
even watching the media anymore. I'm not watching the news anymore. I don't need the news because I just find people, I've followed some 100 people since this started, who are very reliable, giving out information both from the Palestinian side and from the but from the Palestinian side, it's overwhelmingly bullshit that comes out. But mostly from the Israeli side, who are up to date with their information, cut. And it's been fantastic, boss. Moral of the
Next one,
story, do
please.
not do primary research. Twitter is primary research because you're actually hearing from the person themselves, tweeting it out themselves.
Next one, please. Abhinav, thank you so much. Some followers of Islam argue with passion about Islamophobia and persecution, but do not hesitate one bit when celebrating the death and suffering of Jews, Hindus. How do we understand this cognitive dissonance and counter it?
It's very normal. It's very normal. Hindus also do it. Do we acknowledge the Godhra for whatever it was? Do we acknowledge the other side? Do we acknowledge that Operation Blue Star really hurt them? We don't, right? It was a terror operation. That was it. Can you understand that some Kashmiris actually felt alienated? No, it was an anti-terror operation. So we also do it, boss. We're all hypocrites in this. I think with
Next one, please.
a lot of the Muslims you see, they are much more so because it is the emotion is hyper amplified, lacking facts. In our case, like we talk about 1984, but who talks about what all those Sardar militants did to Hindus, removing them from buses and trains and just shooting the people who didn't have pagris? Nobody wants to talk about that. I remember that. I was living in abroad at that time, but I remember that very clearly, boss. We used to hear about it. We used to have these huge dishes up over the embassy, and we used to get Doordarshan news, and it all used to be that. Next.
Next one, please. Paritosh Jani, thank you so much. Doesn't India's interests lie in stopping this war, and can't Modi use his influence? Hasn't even started yet.
No. See, you should never get involved in things that you don't have the capacity to solve. You get involved in this when you have a capacity to give money or geopolitical goodies to each one of them to incentivize them to stop. we are not in a position to do that kind of charity at the moment. So no, it isn't, contrary to what you might think, well-intentioned guy goes and talks, is not this thing. Do you know when the partition of Palestine was going to happen, uh, India thought at that time it was all about good intentions and things like that. uh, the Israelis and Palestinians didn't agree on anything except one thing, which is the Indian proposal was rotten. This was the only thing that the Israelis and the Palestinians could agree on, that the Indian diplomat involved was a moron, and the Indian proposals were rotten, and they didn't want the Indians involved in it.
Next one, please. Jaydev Reddy, thank you so much. Why do communists like your friend Jeroman support Palestine/Hamas? Doesn't Islamists hate communists? Don't Islamists hate communists?
Yeroman, that's Russian
Oh,
for
Yeroman.
hero.
Okay.
The Russians don't have H, so they use G. So, for example, they have a
Okay.
name called Gennady, and Gennady is basically Henry. Henry becomes Gennady in Russian. So, look, Geroman is, I've blocked him. I can't deal with him anymore because he's just a complete propagandist. His thing is, anybody who opposes Russia or supports America should be destroyed. So he doesn't like Israel for that reason, and he's very consistent about this. China, there was absolutely no proof of concentration camps for the Uyghurs. But in this case, so, he's pro-China, he's pro-Russia. He'll support Russian carpet bombing in Syria and Chechnya, but here it becomes a war crime. So, like, I can tell when somebody's a propagandist, and then I either unfollow or block them. I'd unfollowed him for a long time, and now I just decided to block him because he's insufferable. Islamists and communists, we've spoken about this several times, Jaydev. They love each other till one of them comes to power, and then they finish the other person off much before. So Islamists kill off communists before they kill off communists before they kill supporters of the Shah in Iran. And communists kill off Islamists before they kill off class enemies and petty bourgeois. Right? So this is classic. They are two of the most vile, vicious characters around, and they always ally with each other because they see in each other a kindred spirit of absolute ruthlessness, zero morality, zero conscience, and when they come to power, they destroy the other. Next
one. Krishnamurti Hunagun, will Rahul Gandhi be dragged in by Mahua to save herself?
She apparently is planning to do so, but kuch nahi hone wala hai. She's going to get expelled. The NIC has supported, I can tell you exclusively, the NIC has delivered its report to the parliamentary committee. It will be presented to the parliamentary committee tomorrow. And then she will be given an opportunity to explain herself. And obviously, she's going to talk shit and she's going to get expelled. Next. And she'll have to give up that house on Darshan Hiranandani, spent 2 crores. Next.
Thank you, Abhishek, for becoming a YouTube member. Abhishek wants to know, do you think that India will have to eventually join NATO, given Taiwan might be on the chopping board next?
No, now is the time exactly not to join NATO. Why? Because we desperately now need to pull Russia away from China more than ever. If we do NATO, then we're unnecessarily making an enemy out of Russia. So we have to. Now is the time to do divide and rule.
Next one. Partha wants to know, can you explain the octopus-related conspiracy theory you reposted
it's
on
not conspiracy theory, it's iconography. The octopus was a very, very famous icon of anti-Semitism. It basically showed the Jew as the big brain because, octopus has a huge brain. That octopus was the master manipulator with the big brain, and the international Jew, had his tentacles all over, influencing everything in the world and pushing the world towards war. Next.
This one.
Yeah.
Next one, please. Thank you, Abhishek. Thank you, Poonam Abhi. But who has appreciated or even acknowledged the pain and suffering of Hindus in Punjab and Godhra? I am from Punjab and have had family killed by, I think killed by Sikhs.
Yeah, I agree. We don't talk about it. Why don't we talk about it? We should talk about it. That's what I said. We talk about 84, but we don't talk about all the Hindus who were killed after they were removed from buses and trains and shot for not having pagdis. But we don't, no? And we let it go. The Prime Minister also lets it go. He doesn't want to bring that up ever. So there you go.
Alekin Soul wants to know, do you think BJP has a plan to keep power beyond 2024, or they're just muddling their way through?
No, boss. They have plans. They have plans all the way to 2032, 39 possibly. Never make the mistake of assuming that. They've got long-term plans set out very carefully. Their real worry really is not even 29. Their big worry is 1934, which is when they expect the big challenge to their power to come. Right now, they are too big. They're just too big. You look at their cadre base, it is insane. You look at their funding, it is insane. Nobody can do anything about it anymore.
Dr. MPC, thank you so much. Best defense to drone swarms, CIWS, jamming, anything else you can suggest?
If you go check, I tweeted about this company that I visited in Hyderabad, Zen Technologies. They're amazing. They've come up with several things. It includes jamming. It involves a much cheaper drone for physical interception, etc., etc. It's actual physical intercept. You don't need this thing. Of course, when lasers become operational or directed energy weapons become operational, mostly it's lasers. I don't think microwaves work out to a great range. I've seen the microwave demonstration. I wasn't really convinced by it. It's really lasers. Then maybe, but then, the problem with lasers is, what if your shielding is better? If your shielding overcomes the laser, how powerful is your laser going to be? How long are you going to be able to sustain that beam every time? Is it really going to burn through the body of that thing? And what if you reinforce the body at certain areas? So this will be a constant thing. There will never be one thing that will finish it, but that Zen Technologies has actually come up with a physical interception module for each one of these. Kind of like a drone CIWS, but not just... Because, in an urban environment, you can't use CIWS. All those bullets, they'll fall on people. Like if you use the phalanx or something like that, all that shrapnel and things will fall ultimately from a great height. And the height alone will cause serious injuries on the ground. So you can't use it in urban environment. So it's physical intercepts that they're doing, some level of jamming, etc., etc.
Thank you, S. Rahul. Can technologies like ground penetrating radar or LIDAR be used to map the tunnels in Gaza?
They've actually used a lot of it. The problem is a lot of those tunnels are under built-up areas. Now, LIDAR and ground penetrating radar can do this if the top was fine and you had clear line of sight. The problem is you do not have clear line of sight, because if you look at those Gaza neighborhoods, you're not able to get an angle also to go into the side. And each building concentration, it's like city blocks, right? It's concentrated on one thing. So they're not able to get it. So it'll have to be done very differently once they go in on the ground.
Arjun Bhavar wants to know, sir, Israel ने गाजा पे ground operation अभी तक क्यों start नहीं किया?
One is because of all these foreign heads of state rocking up and saying, please, we will support you, but please show us what you're planning for the second order of effects and third order of effects is. Don't go ahead with this. And it is forcing a rethink on the leadership, on the Israeli leadership, number one. Number two, the Americans have asked for time to finish their deployments, the deployment of the fleets, the deployment of air assets. Remember, today, a whole squadron of F-16s landed up somewhere in the Middle East. They didn't say where, but American F-16s landed up in the Middle East. The Americans want to be in place to prevent a general conflagration from happening, say like the First World War kind of thing from breaking out because of the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. Until then, they've asked time for the Israelis.
Abhishek, thank you so much. Do you think Modi ji will retire midway next term and transfer power to another leader?
Yes, he'll transfer power to a completely useless leader, so it won't be Amit Shah. And like he did in Gujarat, he transferred power to a string of useless leaders. And it will be after he becomes the longest serving prime minister. I think Nehru was the longest serving so far at 16 years.
17.
Modi will give up at 17. So then Modi will give up at 18 years.
Thank you so much, Piyush Mehta. Thank you, Gyani Admi. Both Dharma people, SC, ST, are anti-India and also supporting Islamic extremists. Both
Where?
Dharma people. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not seeing this anywhere, boss. We're done. No more.
We're done for a change before time. Thank you so much, Abhijit, and we'll be back again next week. And thank you once again. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.
Do you want me to find my nephew again and try to bully him?